Well, hi. How are you? Y'all look pretty good, right? If you're new here and you don't know me, I'm Joette Calabrese. I'm a homeopath for over 3 decades, a mom who raised her kids using only homeopathy, and a teacher for a long time. And I'm a homeopathy teacher, your teacher. If you already know me, welcome, friends. For those who are new in Facebook, welcome, new people. And my guess is that if you're here, it's because you're interested in knowing how to take care of yourself, your family, your pets, and livestock. And you probably already love homeopathy or are just now falling in love with it. But either way, I'm here for you every Monday night at 8 p.m. to teach you, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to teach you from my Materia Medica, which is right here, and other little tidbits that can save you a lot of time, money, and suffering. And this is for you, folks. This is not monetized. That means I don't have a sponsor. And it's just you and me meeting here the way that we have been doing for the last couple of years, every Monday night. So it's like a little, I don't know, like a little sorority or something. No censorship, no prying eyes if you want to get involved in my Joette's Mighty members. Facebook Live is a whole different world, as you know, but if you're interested, I put up lots of things in Mighty members that I would not say to the general public. So it's like a little group, and those folks also get to know each other in their own little ways. So should you be so inclined and interested, you can certainly join my Joette's Mighty members just by going to my website and just joining in. It's very inexpensive, and I do videos there, and I do them usually twice a month. And then I also add articles and inspirations and things that will help you in your journey in navigating this world of homeopathy and helping your family. So I just have to mention this because Harry, who's always number one these days when signing up from the Mighty members, mentioned Dr. Dorothy Shepherd. If you don't know about Dr. Dorothy Shepherd, I urge you to get her books. I fell in love with her years ago. I actually got a hold of her estate at one point and asked if I could purchase the rights to her books. And the only thing I had in mind was that I just wanted to read her books aloud, online, verbatim, and just be able to do that legally. And they said, no, we are not going to do that. And so then I waited about 5 years and I did it again. And I contacted them again. And I said, just in case you've changed your mind, I would like to buy the rights so that I could simply read directly from her books. So there is no one doing that. And one of these days, if I ever, there are other ways I could do it. I could certainly read passages from her books and then give you my my comments on it. And that's certainly another way to do it. But I've got so many other projects going on now that I guess that I probably won't ever do it. We've got a lot going on. Just a little hint, we're putting together our academy. We were hoping to get it done by this spring, and then we thought we were going to launch it this summer. Then it was very clear to us that many people don't want to start a whole year's program of in-depth study of homeopathy in the middle of the summer. So I think we're going to wait till August, September, sometime around there, so that it coincides with kids back to school and everybody finished with their summer vacations, etc. So watch for that. If you're on my email list, you'll certainly be getting something from that. And even if you're not on my email list, we'll be putting it out plenty of times, so that if you're interested in in-depth study in your in homeopathy, then you might be interested in the academy. So let's see who's here. Hi, Rachna. Let's see who else we've got here. Jane, and let's just see here. Rachna did a wonderful, by the way, podcast with Kate. It was an interview, and if you want to listen to that, it was I think it was the last podcast, and you might be interested in that. It's a very interesting podcast. We've had a lot of very interesting ones. So check that out. All righty. Let's just see who's here. Hello from, where's this? Houston. If anyone else is from around here, please reach out to me. You bet, folks. I like that you're doing that, Sophia. It's very valuable to have friends who are using homeopathy near you for a lot of different reasons. And I don't know, Facebook keeps stopping. Let's just see if we can get this up and going. Here we go. All righty. So let's talk tonight. We were going to talk about a medicine that is specific for bones, eyes, tendons, wrists, knees. And if you know anything about homeopathy, you probably have guessed that it's Ruta, R-U-T-A, Graviolins. And we're doing this in alphabetical order. We're back to the Materia Medica in alphabetical order. Here's my Materia Medica, should you be interested. And for those who don't know what a Materia Medica is, it's simply an anthology or categorization of homeopathic medicines in alphabetical order and a description of the medicines and how they are used. We don't give potencies. We don't give frequencies. It's not a prescription. It's not a layout of how to use the medicines exactly. It's just to teach you about the medicine so that when you determine that this might be a medicine that would be for you, your dog, your chickens, your family, then you go to a Materia Medica and you read up on it. So Ruda, I'm going to read right here, is one of the best. It's Ruda Graviolins, by the way. 2 words. Ruta's good enough because there aren't any other Rutas that are well known, I should say. There are, but they're not well known. The main one is Ruda Graviolins. So it's 2 words, Ruta, R-U-T-A, and Graviolins is Graveolens. And it's garden room. And so it's for bruised ligaments, tendons. It's for lameness. I saw a dog on the street today that was in one of those little carts where the cart holds the dog in the back legs. And I could see that his legs were turning in. And it didn't look like he was in pain. It looked like he was lame in the right hind leg. First thing I thought of was Ruda. It's not the only one. Excuse me. We could use Symphytum, depending on what the problem is. But I'm assuming that it has something to do with his ligaments or muscles, tendons. So I'm going to read right from my book here. Ruda is indicated for sprains, bone bruises, and any complaint involving cartilage, tendons, and bone surfaces. It's not deep in the bone necessarily, although it can be. It's especially effective for a myriad of dental issues. Used in alteration with Arnica, it can help relieve a child's pain from orthodontic appointment. So as the braces are tightened, there can be pain, and Arnica's for the pain, and Ruda's because it's supporting and helping with the tendons and ligaments, mostly ligaments there. And by the way, I am not a proponent of orthodontic treatment in children unless it's absolutely necessary. I have always believed, generally speaking, this is not for every single child, but generally speaking, I find that if the child is getting good nutrition, they're getting good quality dairy, yogurt with the cream on top, cheese, eating properly, eating good butter, etc., eating beef and bison and lamb, etc., that the palate opens up on its own through the years, teenage years, and that usually just straightens itself out. Pretty much that's what happens. You know how when you see a child, let's say a boy about 13 or 14 years old, and his feet are really big and his body is really skinny, looks like Ichabod Crane, or his ears look too big for his body, for his head? Well, that's because everything doesn't grow exactly proportionately as they're growing through puberty and teenage years. So the mouth does not open, the palate does not widen necessarily at the same time, so the teeth are crooked. That doesn't mean you jump in and use orthodontia. In my estimation, that can be, not always, it can be jumping the gun, because I find that allowing the child to grow, the palate will widen, the shoulders will broaden. We're talking about a boy now. If it's a girl, the palate will widen, the hips will widen, and we'll see this child grow into a young adult. And with that, the palate widens and the teeth straighten out often, not always. But here's the thing. If they don't straighten, let's say it's not a situation, excuse me, where they will straighten by just growth, then you use orthodontia when they're 25. What difference does it make, excuse me, if they're 15, 12, 15, 25. I don't see that there's a big difference in general. I'm not prescribing for you, but I'm telling you that in general, I don't see that that's a problem. Okay, excuse me. All righty. So, all right, if dental implant is needed, Ruda 30 taken both before and after the procedure can help tighten up the loose ligaments. Interesting, isn't it? A loosened tooth as a result of a blow or mishap may be stabilized after a few doses of this medicine. So if someone hits their tooth, they land on their face, the tooth is out. It has now fallen from let's say the maxillary. You get that tooth, wash it quickly. Some people put it in milk. Yes, I know. The old ways to do it is you dip it in milk and put it right back in as soon as possible. It is quite extraordinary how the tooth can sometimes reconnect if you do it soon enough. And then you start using Ruda. And of course, a medicine for the pain and the shock. So that would be the pain might be Arnica 200 and the shock would be Aconitum 200. And you could also use Hypericum. I know I'm going through these very quickly, but I'm assuming that many of you know this. If you don't know it, I've talked about these medicines many times. You'll learn. Don't worry. You will learn it all. These are very common medicines. And as you listen to me and study and join study groups and read books, study Dr. Dorothy Shepherd, etc., you will find you know more than you thought you did. Okay. So Ruda is also used for eye strain. In the old days, when many of the old Materia Medicas were being authored, they used to talk about women who did close needlework, embroidery work. Women don't do that anymore. But in the old days, they did it all the time. There were women who did it all day long. Or they would stitch. There were no machines that were used, obviously, for clothing. And so they did very small stitches. And so their eyes would get tired. And so the ligaments behind the eyeballs would need to be, they'd need a rest. But they couldn't because they continued to work. So one would use Ruta, R-U-T-A, Graviolins, Ruda Graviolins. And I would use it in a 30. You could use it. That would be the first choice. And I would use that twice daily. Now, in today's world, people's eyes are strained because they're staring at computer screens all day. Same thing, folks. It's the same thing. It's from overuse of the eyes. It's a great medicine. Ruta Graviolins. Great medicine for tired or overused eyes. Now, overuse, I love this medicine because it has a lot to do with overuse. Okay, it's application. Let's see if I've got it. Here we go. In a physician's posy, Dr. Dorothy Shepherd chronicles Ruda's reputation in strengthening the eye muscles of people doing a great deal of close work for prolonged periods of time, monks poring over manuscripts, nuns meticulously counting each embroidery stitch on altar cloths, Chinese women deftly sewing their tapestries in today's world as we find ourselves peering at computer screens, cell phones, and video games for much of the day. Ruda has the same application as it did in the last centuries. Additionally, remember Ruda for sprained ankles. Now, for a sprained ankle, what you're going to do is by using Ruda, you're going to help the body come back round again. But for the actual pain, you might still use Arnica, or if it's extremely painful, you might use Hypericum. So I would use Ruda in a 200 for a sprained ankle because most sprained ankles are quite painful. Sprained wrist as well. It could be used for several days. It will usually cut the time in half that it takes for it to heal. Now, here's something that I want you to know about homeopathy. Most people think that if it doesn't work in 4 doses, that's it. It's no good. It's not going to work. Well, for example, if someone has a virus, it could take the virus that is at hand and they're sick with it. It's not going to take 4 doses. It could take 4 or 5 days instead of 2 weeks, instead of 3 weeks. And it's going to take time, but we want to be patient. And the aspect of this in homeopathy is that we kind of have to know what we're dealing with. If it's a sprained ankle, we're not going to expect it to be unsprained and fine within a day or two. We're going to see a change. We'll see a little bit of an improvement. If the eyes are strained after using them during the day and you take a dose or 2 or 3 of Ruda, you probably will see a change right away. If someone is sick with a virus, especially one of that's really strong and it's putting them to bed, sending them to bed, it's probably not going to come around for immediately, although it can. It can for some people, but we want to be patient in some circumstances and our expectations not too extreme. All righty. So consider Ruda for all injuries to the periosteum and deeper muscular tissues, sprains and strains. Periosteum is the outer area of the bone, especially to the wrist and knees, and pain from bunions. You bet. Dr. Shepard also recommends to relieve pain after chiropractic or osteopathic adjustment. That is not, Ruda is not only great for that, but I also use Arnica or Rustax. If a chiropractor uses that, or you take it after or before you go for your chiropractic adjustment, and sometimes you feel a little beat up afterwards, but on the other side of it, maybe in a day or so, you're going to feel better. You can eliminate that pain for that day. Now, in that circumstance, you're going to get through it a little bit faster. So it depends on the condition, okay? Anytime joints and tendons need support, consider Ruda. So Ruda is also for tendons and joints that need support. So sometimes it's the back of the neck, and sometimes it feels as though the head is too heavy. So if there's a pain in the neck or the shoulders, and the person says, it feels as though my head is too heavy, that lameness or heaviness is often a call for Ruda. That's why I was mentioning that dog that I saw tonight before I started up here. The back leg was lame, and that's what makes me consider using Ruda. And in that dog's case, I would actually use it Ruda in a 200 twice a day. I would just automatically do that. At least start with that. Okay. Hi, Joette and Perry. I've got all of Dr. Dorothy Shepard's books, and they're fascinating. I know she's the best. She was the best. She's no longer alive. She was a very interesting doctor, Dr. Dorothy Shepard. I talk about here today in my Materia Medica. She was a medical doctor in World War I in London, and she went through, she had a MASH unit, essentially. She worked in one of the hospitals, conventionally trained medical doctor. She worked in a hospital and in the emergency room and dealt with the injuries and infections, etc., that ensued as a result of World War I. Then, after World War I ended, she went to homeopathy school. She was a medical doctor, decided to go to homeopathy school and studied homeopathy. And then went back to the emergency room at a different hospital, now it was a homeopathic hospital, and started to use homeopathy instead of conventional medicine. And her books reflect the differences and how she was able to see why the homeopathic medicines were superior to the conventional medicines that she had been using just a few 10, 20 years earlier. I guess it would be more like 20 years earlier, 20 plus years. Okay. So anytime joints and tendons, I'm reading from my Materia Medica, need support, consider Ruda. It's very effective for repetitive stress injuries. Repetitive. Mouse. Using the mouse over and over again. Playing piano for pianists who play and their wrists ache. So it's for carpal tunnel. Yes, carpal tunnel. We can often avoid that surgical procedure for carpal tunnel. It's also for the tendons of the digits. Very important. It's also good for golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, and as I said, carpal tunnel syndrome. Those in need of a Ruta are worse from overexertion, but better from motion. So here's what that means is that it's very similar to Rustax for those of you who know and understand Rustax. Rustax is also better for motion. In other words, they're worse at first movement and better once they get started. But then if they overdo it, it is too much. And that's when the strain really comes on. All righty, let's just see what we've got here. And let's hope that we can get Okay. Here we go. Let me just see what we've got here. Folks saying lived in Bethany, Connecticut. All righty. Let's get some mighty members. Let me get your questions here. See if we've got any questions. Love my Monday nights. I do too, Angela. Thank you for saying. I love being here too. I was so disappointed last Monday night. It was very frustrating for me. Any update from India's fight against the virus? What is true? What is true about this? About what's going on? Was it true here? I mean, look, I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but I did not see that the hospitals were overcrowded. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people worked in the hospitals. How is it that all of those nurses and doctors had time to put together dance routines and then were dancing on videos, and whole segments of hospitals were closed down? I'm sorry. I don't trust corporate media. I just don't trust it. I don't trust it. In fact, whatever they tell me, I think the opposite. I think I've said this before. I raised my kids when they were younger. I said, look, you see what everybody else is doing, do the opposite, and you'll probably be just fine. We have to be very wary of that. So where do I get my information? I go online. I check out, hello from New York City. I check out journalists, citizen journalists. That's where I get my information. And can I trust them? Well, they're certainly not paid for and bought by industries and by government. And so that gives me a little different perspective. Can I trust everything? Of course not. So we have to kind of weigh it out. But I think that can't say what's happening in India. I'm not there. I'm hearing different responses from different folks who are involved with India, who have family there, who live there. And then my friend, Joe Pathy, who's in Sri Lanka, not far from there. So I've tried to keep up with it. All right. Let's just see. Let's see. I was in a car accident 2 weeks ago, says Neely. Pretty bad. Have been using, I'm sorry to hear that, nothing but homeopathy for me and the dogs. Very successful. So glad I knew what to do. You bet. And that's what I want you all to know what to do. I want you to have this all at hand. So would Ruda be good for bruised ribs? Yes, because it's for the periosteum of the bone. Yes, it can be. Absolutely. So is Arnica. Very good for bruised ribs. Let's see. Hi, everyone from Dallas. Let's see. Eye strain. Yes, I would use this medicine, this Ruda for eye strain every day, as long as it's something that happens pretty much every day. If it only happens once in a while, then I would save it for those times and then not use it unless needed. But if you find that it's a daily occurrence and your eyes are tired at the end of the day from having sat in front of a computer screen, by all means, I often feel it at night myself because I'm in front of a screen all day as well. I don't take it. I don't take it for that. Any special book to start with, Dr. Dorothy Shepard? No, any one of them. You'll love them all. All righty. Homeopathy for the first aider, says Harry. Hi, Joette and Perry. Actually, my husband Perry is not here right now. He's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in a sailboat, taking it all along the East Coast. And I'm watching him. I've got an app so I can watch him remotely, and I can see where he is. The last I looked, which was about 3 hours ago, he was climbing up with my son and a couple of other crew members on this sailboat. That's a 50-year-old sailboat, and they are climbing up the eastern coast from Fort Lauderdale going up to Massachusetts. So it's kind of a interesting thing. I probably shouldn't tell the world that, right? Because it means I'm alone. Well, I've got Buster, and I've got my neighbors close by. Carpal tunnel does not feel better from motion. Why would you use Ruda over Bryonia? Because it doesn't have to have that. I'm glad you asked that, Monica. It doesn't have to be better from motion. I'm giving you the whole picture. Often it is better from motion, but it's not an absolute. And often it is for the wrist, but it's not Absolute. These are some of the components of the medicine that I want you to look at and consider, and you start with that. If it works, then great, you got something. If it doesn't help, then you can use Symphytum, you can use Arnica. There are others. You can use calc phos. All right. Yes, let's see. Yes, what books? Okay, I answered that. Look at the Kindle samples. Okay, I have a lot of friends who work in local hospitals in Southern California, running ERs in administration. All of them said they would have bursts of PTs like with the flu, and then nothing. Hype. I think it's been hyped too. I will be honest with you. For a disease that is 99.6% recovery rate, I don't know. Is something wrong with me thinking that those are not bad odds? If it was 99.6% mortality rate, then I would see the hysteria. But I actually think this has been the real disease has been the hysteria. In the beginning, we didn't know, folks, but now we know. Now we know. And so I think we've been played. All right. Magic of the Minimum Dose. I really like Magic of the Minimum Dose is a good book by Dorothy Shepard. Yes. How amazing for Perry and my son. Yes, it is a great time. And I used to sail. It's great, says Harry. How did I know that, Harry? I knew you were sail. I just guessed it. I just guessed it. Let's see if we can find where we are on Facebook and get some Facebook questions. All righty. Does anyone here know a Ruda would be helpful for heel pain? It is potentially possible that it could help for heel pain. It's not my first choice, but if it's a ligament, yes. Plantar fasciitis. Those are ligaments, folks. And I would definitely give that a try. Now, whenever you use these medicines, we use them twice a day, generally speaking. If it doesn't act in a few days or so, or it gets worse, then you might want to reconsider. You're always looking for that tipping point. You know what I mean? We're always looking for that tipping point. Let's see if we can get some more questions here. I gave you the potency, Ruda for pain. Oh, it's going too fast. And I answered that about plantar fasciitis. When would you use Ruda, Graviolins versus Symphytum officinalis for injuries to bones and tendons? I would actually consider using both. If it is an injury to a bone, I would use Ruda, but I would probably use both Ruda and Symphytum. I feel very strongly about Symphytum for bones. I don't think that you can really treat a bone fully if you don't also employ Symphytum, Symphytum, Symphytum officinalis, and that's in a 200 potency. I've talked about that and Ruda on my blog, so if you have any questions, do take a look at that. Bone spurs. Bone spurs are a little different. And I will tell you, I've got 1 minute. Hecla lava and silica. I use both of those for Hecla, Hecla. Hecla. Is there a K? I think there's a K. Hecla. Hecla. Lava. Lava. I use those for bone spurs. And I also use silica. And bursitis. Same idea. It's the bursa, but it's hard to say. Is it the bursa sac or is it the tendon that's causing the bursa sac? So I would consider using it. Absolutely. And let's say Harry from PA. Yay. Hi, Joette and Perry. Hugs. Yes, it's great to be amongst all of you. I love it. Okay, folks, I will be here next Monday night, 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be continuing. I will certainly let you know what we're going to be talking about. I love your input, so please do give me your input and what you are most concerned about these days. And I will address as much as I can. And with all of that, I say good night to all my friends here, and God bless all of you. Good night.